Hi guys, Chris Hughes here, dietitian and founder of Mealsy. I'm here today to talk to you about blood pressure. I've been putting meal plans together for people recently, and a common theme amongst a lot of the people that, a lot of the time they're wanting to lose weight. But one of the common side effects of being overweight tends to be high blood pressure. Now, you don't have to be overweight to have high blood pressure, but it is a really prevalent condition that is worth, I guess, drawing attention to because in Australia, it's prevalent, and I'll explain why it's such a problem in a minute. But I think it was 2020, I was looking at the stats the other day. It was 11% of all deaths in Australia were attributed to chronic kidney disease, which quite often has an underlying cause being high blood pressure. So reducing blood pressure is really important. Now, why does high blood pressure have such an impact on the body? I really like to use analogies. And so if you think about like setting up a watering system in the garden, okay, like garden hoses, but then you come up and put a fire hose to drive that water distribution, okay? So if you're hooking a fire hose up to it, you can imagine where all the joins are and all the little sprinklers that are watering your garden are going to blow out pretty soon, or at least over time, depending how good the connections are. But if it's a fire hose, they're going to blow out pretty quick. So we do a lot of damage to the arteries and the vessels, and then also like our kidneys cop the brunt of it. Okay, so think of like if in the garden you've got like a filter or a sieve at the end, which is what our kidneys do. They filter our blood and they help us sort of retain fluid and whatnot. And if we're just putting a fire hose up to that, it's just blowing holes in it, and we're starting to lose protein out through the kidneys, and a whole heap of problems that are associated with that. And so that then leads to chronic disease and early death, which is what I was just talking about with those stats. So it is a really big problem, and it's one medical experience I probably feel like people tend to underestimate the importance of bringing blood pressure down. Why do they underestimate it? I don't know. Is it because it's so common, or we don't talk about it appropriately? I'm not too sure. But a pretty big way to manage that is through lifestyle. Okay, so medications are great, they do the job, but you can really do it quite well, a lot of people, not everyone, through lifestyle changes. Okay, now the big one is reducing weight. Okay, so reducing body weight really helps to reduce blood pressure. I'm not going to go into that specifically, okay, but essentially you need to have a calorie controlled diet, you need to move, exercise regularly, and that helps to create that deficit. But weight loss is a little bit more complicated than that. Now, when I say calorie controlled diet, please don't think I mean starving yourself. It's got to be a good quality diet, rich in volume and fiber and protein, and that can help to bring blood pressure down through weight loss. But like I said, I won't go into that in too much depth. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the specifics around diet. For blood pressure, also exercising regularly is really important. That really helps with circulation. Managing your stress is really important, whether you're doing that through meditation or not. But then we're looking at the diet components of how you can reduce blood pressure, and the big culprit quite often is sodium. Okay, so our Paleolithic diet, if you like, we didn't consume much sodium. Okay, I forget what the ratio is, but like we had minimal sodium and a lot of potassium. So potassium primarily comes from our vegetables and fruits. So we had a much higher potassium diet compared to what we did with sodium. And now we've really flipped that around. We have a much lower potassium intake and a much higher sodium intake, because sodium's in all of our processed foods. And so it's little wonder that we see all these impacts coming throughout the body, because our body just hasn't evolved to adapt to that sort of intake. And so reducing sodium is really important, because wherever sodium goes, water goes. So it's like you're holding on to water in the body by having a higher sodium intake. Now, the recommended is under 2,000 milligrams a day, and the typical Western diet is up closer to 4,000. So we're almost double what we should be. So, really focusing on that, looking at, not adding it at the table, but also really taking a look at the type of foods and how much sodium is in that. Now, if you're aiming for under 2,000 milligrams a day, that's fantastic. If you're looking at labels, look, a great item is something that's under about 120 milligrams per 100 gram. But look, even if you can get it under 500, that's still quite good. I tell my clients to always keep that context of 2,000 in the back of your mind. If you're trying to keep it under 2,000 for the whole day, then that's really good. So you might have one meal that might be 800, which is still quite high. But if the rest of the day is really low, then you've got to look at it throughout the whole spectrum of the whole day, if you like. So reducing sodium is really important. Most of it's coming through packaged foods, okay? Cheese, bread, It's in like any sort of soups, pastas, anything that has to be preserved, if you like, tends to have a high sodium content. So just be aware of that. Now, it's not just sodium, okay? We want to increase potassium, we want to increase magnesium, we want to increase calcium. And these are all things that really help with reducing blood pressure. And like I said, potassium is a big one. Potassium essentially is mostly coming from our fruits and vegetables in particular. So eating lots of potassium-rich vegetables is critical. And what comes with that is a high nitrate intake. Okay, so nitrates are then converted eventually to nitric oxide in the body. These are great because what it does is it dilates the blood vessels. Okay, so what that means is it opens up the blood vessels. So our blood vessels can either constrict or open up. And you can think about that. The body regulates that by controlling blood flow to certain parts of the body at certain times of day. So, direct blood flow to the organs if they need more blood flow and more nutrients, and it can sort of close off other areas by constricting. But constricting too much is a bit, and a highly processed diet has more of a constricting effect. We want a diet that has a more what we call vasodilating, so opening up those arteries as best we can, and that comes a lot from nitrate. So that's what I'm going to go through, the top 10, okay? Now, these aren't in any particular order, and I could certainly add to this list, but these are my top 10. All right, so garlic is number one. Now, garlic is a bit of a superfood. This is great too if you're actually got high cholesterol, because it can drop your triglycerides, drop your LDL, increase your HDL. So garlic is one of these, I hate the word superfood, but it's if we're going to call a food a superfood, it's garlic. And so wards off vampires as well. So, it's a good one to include. So the amount to have is a bit challenging if we're doing it with food, if I'm being honest. Okay, so we're talking about 3 to 6 cloves a day. The best way to take it is to split it over the day, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you're probably not going to do that with cloves. So you can get dried garlic extract or garlic supplements, and anywhere from 600 milligrams up to 1200 milligrams. So we're talking therapeutic doses. So these are pretty potent amounts of garlic, but they are worth having, because if your preference is to not go on medication, and I'm not against medication. If you need it, you need it. But if you want to try lifestyle first, it's about a 10 to 20 milligram drop in blood pressure that garlic can have an impact on. So plenty of garlic, really important. A little bit of cayenne pepper. Now this one is thought to stimulate nitric oxide production. So this is, release of. So this is another one. It all relates to that dilating of the blood vessels. So a little bit of cayenne pepper in cooking adds a nice bit of flavor and really helps long term. Onion is very similar to garlic, okay, so including a lot of onion. Now, also there's some research around about our gut health and its impact on blood pressure. So sodium tends to have an impact within the gut. It's now thought it encourages the growth of certain bacteria, which then has a knock-on effect in terms of increasing our blood pressure. Whereas garlic and onion have the opposite. They create a different type of gut bacteria, which is beneficial for reducing blood pressure. So onion is a great one. Little wonder here, oily fish. Now, whether that's salmon, sardines, I've chosen salmon here because it's probably the most common. But yeah, oily fish, omega-3s is what we're looking at, and that helps for the release of nitric oxide as well. Now, it doesn't have to be, we can get omega-3s from plant-based like chia and walnuts. Now, they're not the exact same as the omega-3 in animal, but they still have beneficial effects, and so something you can include. Here in Queensland, we've got the jade perch, which is actually 3 times the omega-3 content of salmon, but it means it's very fatty and it's probably not as palatable. So that's why salmon I've chosen here. Beetroot, okay, beetroot really high in nitrates, which then converts to nitric oxide, so another big potent vasodilator. For anyone that is a bit of an NRL fan, the whole beetroot juice thing that was adopted a number of years ago, or any athletes that use beetroot juice, really helps to open the blood vessels and gets the blood circulating and energy to the muscles. So beetroots are quite potent. The green tips of beetroot are great as well. Walnuts, as I said, now these are, as well as the omega-3, they're anti-inflammatory. All of these foods have antioxidant properties that reduce inflammation. So, walnuts are another one that most people will be familiar with. Turmeric, much the same. Now, turmeric is a great one because, really we should have some sort of curry once a week, and you add a big heap of turmeric. Turmeric is best taken daily. The component in there is curcumin. needs to be combined with a bit of black pepper to help with the absorption. So turmeric is a good one. If you don't feel like a curry every day, then you can get this in supplemental form as well. Leafy greens are something that we should all have, like lots of rich, deep green color in our meals every day. Now, whether that's a salad or whether that's in a stir fry or a casserole, you just need lots of leafy greens every single day, and it's a really important one to include, and it's not hard to include either. Tomatoes. Now, these are my favorite. I'm a big fan of tomatoes, but these guys, like if anyone that's on blood pressure medication, you may be on what they call an ACE inhibitor. So they inhibit a enzyme, if you like, in the body that constricts our arteries. And so tomatoes have a fairly similar effect. Now, it may not be as potent as what the ACE inhibitors that people may take can do, but if you can take something that's doing it every day for you at a low dose, then why not? And so tomatoes are another really easy one to include. And then citrus is another great one as well. So this is, again, an easy one to consume. It's readily available, which is why I've included here. But a little bit of I guess a warning here is that if it's grapefruit, that can actually impact on some people's blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication, because there's a component in it that basically affects the way certain medications are absorbed in the gut and metabolized. So just be mindful with grapefruit. Starfruit is another one, but otherwise other citrus is fine to have with most blood pressure medication. All right, guys. So yeah, really important. Don't underestimate if you've got high blood pressure. Don't take it lightly. Do something about it. Kidney disease is a big killer, and high blood pressure is one of the big contributors to chronic kidney disease, and it's a pretty debilitating condition. All right, any questions, please let me know. Thanks.